All right. So, Elie, why are you here talking to me now? What went wrong?
Oh gosh. Well, we don't have that long, so I feel like I have to condense this answer. My game got really messy, obviously. I mean, I think if we like start from the vote out episode and move backwards in time, maybe that's easier. It was a mess. I was really excited to play, and I just kind of went full force, and that was obviously way too much. I think every day of the season, I would sit down and be like, okay, today I'm just gonna chill out. You know, don't need to be scheming. I'm just gonna take it easy. And then every day, I would end up wanting to just play way too hard. And so I think that's mostly it. Being sneaky when I probably didn't even need to be.
How much did it bum you out to be that close and not get that merge buff? It's brutal.
Oh man. So I'll be honest. You walk away and I wasn't even really thinking about it. And then all of a sudden you hear them cheering because you're not very far away from where everybody's sitting at Tribal. And all of a sudden I hear people cheering. At first I thought they were all cheering because they voted me out. I was like, oh, frick, that's not great. But then I realized, oh, they're getting their buffs. And that was like a little dagger to the heart. I honestly feel like it was my time. I mean, we saw my demise happen over 4 episodes, maybe 5 episodes. So, you know, I felt ready in real life at the time and kind of ready watching it back too.
Well, ultimately, I mean, the question that people are gonna have is how big of an impact did Gabler's announcement that you had gone through his bag, how big an impact do you think that made in terms of you being voted out?
I mean, I think what we saw was that there was a twofold issue with that day for me. One being Gabler throwing my name out at the merge feast, retokened as the merge meal, I guess you heard.
Yeah.
And then me trying to figure out a plan that would avoid me getting thrown under the bus and saying, okay, Cody can be a decoy, and we'll say that to James and Cassidy, and then we can really try to split the votes between James and Cassidy. So I think things got messy for me regardless. I think part of what wasn't shown was how those names came to be. I think the Cody coming up, that was something that I thought would be kind of a natural decoy. So like that was probably me. But the James and Cassidy idea of splitting the vote was actually Cody's idea. And so I had a private conversation with him on the beach, and he was like, why don't we split the vote between them? And I was like, okay, let's run with it. And so I was probably more verbal than I should have been and let him run with it. But I was an overexcited player.
Well, let's talk about that, because when you talk about making Cody the decoy vote, one question I had was, is she letting Cody know this? Because it's going to get back to him. There's a good chance it's going to get back to him. So is she giving him a heads up? Look, I'm saying this, but trust me. Or did it worry you? Hey, never tell someone they're the decoy vote because no one wants to be the decoy vote. So how did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I probably didn't handle it well, but I did talk to him about it. I talked to everybody about everything. I'm not a secret keeper, apparently. So I had talked to Cassidy first, and either she said Cody or I said Cody. I watched it last night and I still don't even remember. But I was like, yeah, super comfortable with that. I talked to Cody next and was like, hey, Cassidy already threw your name out, and so I'm just gonna go with that, and I'm sorry. But we talked about his idol. I'm like, if you feel uncomfortable, you can play it. That might have also pissed him off. Like, why is she trying to get me to play an idol? It was all really sketchy, Dalton. I have literally no excuse. It was just messy, and it was sketchy, and I didn't want to get voted out, and it was, I think, pure panic at that point.
So you think, I mean, because that's the question. Look, we saw Vessi help you guys in that challenge and want to get Coco out to, even out the numbers. Now, I guess you guys go in there and you have the most tribe members. But so I'm watching it thinking, well, why is it that they want to get rid of Elie? And I guess it's because you're saying that you were acting sketchy out there, or at least coming off that way.
I think especially on that last day, like, you're hearing from Gabler that I looked through his bag. You're coming back to camp and you're hearing, hey, guys, Elie said Cody. And then you're hearing from other people, Elie said James. Hearing from other people, Elie said Cassidy. Like, that's a really bad look. And I was fully aware of that. Like, that's part of why I was so panicked, was like, oh, this got really out of hand really fast. And it can be contained when it's a 5-person tribe and it's just Sami telling people my business. But when it's a 13-person tribe, 12-person tribe, it's spread like wildfire. And so I had literally no shot.
What was your reaction when you're sitting at home or wherever you were watching the episode last night and you see your confessional interview where you're like, I'm made for Survivor. I'm even better than this than I thought. Because as viewers, we see that, we're like, uh-oh. Immediately when you see someone say that.
Okay, so maybe Survivor fans can deduce by how pale I was and how full my cheeks were that might have been an early confessional, potentially. I remember talking about that, and part of why I wanted to play Survivor was personal growth. I mean, that's like, I love Survivor so much, and because of what you see people go through and like triumph over. And so I was really hungry for that from the beginning. And so a lot of what I would talk about in my confessionals is like, wow, like I really think that I suck at this. And it turns out I don't suck quite as bad as I thought I did. And so when I'm saying like I'm better than I thought I would be, that's like coming from a very, very low bar of like, I'm thinking I'm going to be the first person out. That's why I was eager in my first episode to throw out a name, because I was anxious. And so I think that like it comes across as overconfident. I am typically very underconfident. I'm pretty like insecure when it comes to my abilities. And so in that moment, being like proud of myself that I learned how to catch hermit crabs and snails, like it just was, I think I was like overjoyed that I wasn't quite as a mess as I thought I would be. At that point, by the time the merge, I was pretty aware that it was a mess.
Whenever I see a player, like I think about a player out there saying that in a confessional interview, I picture like the Survivor producer and editors like silently high-fiving. All right, just lock this away. We'll use this when we need it.
You marked that one. Oh, I mean, I saw my jaw dropped. I'm like, what a freaking idiot! Why would you ever say that? But I mean, it is what it is. I am still like fully obsessed with Survivor and everything that it has to offer. It was life-changing for me, and so it was a good experience.
Let's go back to the Gabler thing, because we saw you say on the show, like when you confront him about it and you're like, all right, I need to go do damage control. So what was your damage control? You know that he's just told 6 people, I think it was, that you went through his bag.
Yeah.
You didn't go through his bag, but your bestie did, your island bestie. So just how did you handle that whole situation?
I just tried to be honest with people, and I don't think that anybody believed me, and part of that is my fault because they already had gotten wind of that I was throwing people's names out and talking about plans to vote their tribe members out. So me then coming up to them and being like, hey, I heard that Gabler said this. That's not what happened. I'm not going to snitch on the person that did, but I'm just really hoping that the 24-hour bond that we've created will make you want to keep me in the game. It was, it was kind of a half-ditch effort. I tried to explain to people what happened. I think most of them were just like, oh, okay, honey, like sounds good, kind of shoo me along so they can keep talking about how they're going to vote for me.
When did it start to go bad between you and Gabler? Because we saw early on you guys seem to be bonding over heavy metal and punk rock. So when did it start to go bad?
I mean, maybe then, honestly, I never should have lied about my taste in music. And I am fully aware that the Dead Kennedys are not heavy metal. I just want to be clear on that because I think there's been a lot of controversy over it in the Twitterverse. But day 4, honestly, we had a big brainstorm after Mariah's vote out. That was the beginning of Mariah's revenge. And the next day, it just was like a flip switch. He was really struggling, like physically, and I think we're really hustling, trying to like get things organized at camp and build a shelter. And so that was where I was kind of like, I don't know about this. And so really at that point, it was still kind of a tribe strength conversation of not so much that I didn't like Gabler. I genuinely like him even after all of that. We have a really good relationship. He's a very genuine person. It's just that at that point, he wasn't contributing the way that he was in those first few days where I was like, wow, this guy's great. He's really pulling his weight. All of a sudden there was a big drop off. And so I think not just me, I think that the 4 of us at one point wanted to make sure that he was an option if we had to go back to tribal, to not vote off one of the 4 stronger members of the tribe. Did
you have any idea that Sami was going behind your back and telling Gabler basically everything all season?
Colton, do you think that I had any idea? I mean, you can see the look in my eyes. I'm like, Sami, can you believe this? Sami, listen to this. I was just so all in on our relationship, and it didn't show that at all in the season how close we were. We were very good friends, like just buddies about everything. I think aside from Janine, I spent the most time with Sami, just like hanging out and having fun. And so I had absolutely no idea. I thought that he was in on everything and like down for all of it. And so I was really shocked when I had a conversation with Gabler and he said, Sami and Owen told me. I was like, what the hell? And so then you see the aftermath of that. I went and talked to Owen and Sami about it, and Sami again had a really good explanation. He's like, listen, Gabler already knew. He noticed something was wrong with his sock. and because he had the stuff in one of his socks. He noticed something was wrong, and he kind of like backed me into a corner, so I had to tell him. And I was like, oh wow, poor Sami, oh my gosh, this innocent 22-year-old, like, okay, I forgive you, just help me fix the problem. And he legitimately went, and they didn't show this either, pretended to help me fix the problem. Like, I'd walk up and I would hear him being like, y'all, like, she's such a good person, she did not do that. And apparently I know now, because we're friends and we talk, that I would walk away and he'd be like, bro, we gotta get her out, she's bad. And so, no, I had zero idea, even up until tribal council. I was like, I know if one person has my back, it's Sami.
Well, did Janine have your back? Because I'm wondering about that. She said, listen, if I have any clue that it's you, I'm giving you the idol. Do you think she didn't have a clue, or do you think she's like, I'm not parting with this idol?
You know, we'll never really know whether or not she would have played it for me. But another secret that really just digs my grave even further. So I'm just gonna go all out and let you know how bad it was in my mind. I waved her off, like, while the voting was going on. The discussion at tribal council was so convincing for me in the way that it was being said between Gabler's discussion and Sami's discussion of, like, you know, if you're trying to rebuild bonds with somebody, you're trying to build a connection with somebody, and they play an idol when they don't need to, that damages trust. I'm thinking, like, I'm on the bottom of our 5-person alliance. I need to show them that I trust them, because we had really meaningful conversations that day of like, okay, we can move on from this. I was blindly trusting. And so I was like, you know what? And I mouthed to Janine, I think we're good. And she's like, okay, we're good. And so it's really not Janine's fault. It is, I don't know if she would have played it for me if I hadn't said anything. But I think it would have required me to be like, Janine, can I have your idol? You know, pull a Natalie.
Wow. So you waved her off. That's interesting.
I did. It's horrible to admit, but it's true.
Why do you think James never bought what you were selling with the Cody vote? You'd already just been displayed too much sort of sketchiness in your words, or why do you think, because you're selling and he's not buying?
Yeah, so James and I, it felt like from the minute we met that we were both holding a dagger behind our backs. Like, we just, I think, gave each other this energy of like, I knew that he was running Coco from like the minute he stepped off his boat. I'm like, this person has this really great energy that I would want to follow. It means that people are probably following him. I mean, he sat down and we had this nice long conversation about our histories, and, you know, he disclosed information to me about himself and vice versa. And it felt like the whole time we were just sitting there with daggers behind our backs being like, this is the person who's going to run away with the game if we're not careful. I do think that as much as I want to be self-deprecating and say that like I got really messy, I did on that last day. I don't think that the day that we were all kind of mingling with each other that I came off that way. I think that I came off pretty social. And so my guess is, and you'll have to ask him one day, my guess is that he maybe viewed me as a threat and was like, this person's got game going on. And I felt the same way about him. You know,
you've given me some of this already, but I always love knowing stuff that doesn't make it to TV, because they can only fit so much on TV. They can hardly put anything when you think about it. So is there anything else that happened out there that we didn't get to see on TV that you wish we had?
I have talked about this a lot, I guess. The friendships are like, Baka was a mess and we bickered at each other, but we were really obsessed with each other at the end of the day. Like, when it came to challenges, we fought really, really hard for each other. We would really support each other before and after challenges. And every night, like, the sun would go down and it did feel like the game was turning down at the end of the day. Like, we could have a really messy day and have been bickering with each other, but the sun went down and we would cook our snails and eat our coconut and like literally serve each other. Like, Gabler, want a snail? You know, Janine wants some coconut. And we took good care of each other. We like threw a Baka prom one night because Gabler's kids were going to prom and he was like so aching for his kids. Like, we made little dresses and danced and we just had a ton of fun. And so it makes sense that they're not showing all of that, but we were very close, like, I think family oriented tribe at the end of the day.
Why do women keep getting voted out of this game?
God. I do think that it's part of the new era of Survivor, of not having swaps. It makes, you know, you kind of know that you're stuck in this very, very small 3-person tribe, and strength gets thrown out as something that's important early on. And so I think that might be part of it. I don't know. I know that I'm complicit in that, so.
It's interesting to see. All right, so if they bring you back again, if they say, the producers say, we need some Elie Scott back on this island, How are you going to play differently?
I'm going to play, well, I will say my big fault is not playing like Michelle Fitzgerald. I got undeserved likeness comparisons to Michelle, and I did not do her justice in a single day that I played. And so I would want to play a much more subtle game. Like, I don't know how she managed to bite her tongue the way that she would be talked to by some of the men out there. And I did not have that capability. It's like the first whiff of whatever. I don't know, wanting to talk it out, fight it out. And so I would want to play a much more subtle game until the end.
Well, you know, she made it to the end of her first time, but she also made it to the end her second time. So yeah. If you can, you know, in your second time out, if you can maybe get the comparison rolling, we'll see. Maybe
honestly, making it to the merch would just be fantastic.
You're this close.
That would be great.
Elie, this is awesome. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you. I enjoyed watching you on the season.
Thanks so much, Dalton. It was nice to meet you.